What watch sellers will never tell you is that the real game is not about telling time, but about shaping your perception of value, status, and desire, long before you ever reach for your wallet. The first thing watch sellers will never tell you is that the luxury watch industry runs on perception engineering far more than on mechanical necessity. Because in a world where your smartphone keeps more accurate time than any mechanical movement ever could, what you are truly being sold is narrative, atmosphere, and identity. The boutique is designed like a sanctuary, with controlled lighting that flatters polished cases, hushed acoustics that slow your breathing, and carefully choreographed displays that isolate each model as if it were a museum artifact, subtly signaling that you are not purchasing a product, but entering a lineage. The salesperson does not immediately discuss margins or production scale. Instead, they speak about heritage, about decades, or even centuries of craftsmanship, about archives, explorers, racing drivers, aviators, pioneers, and cultural icons who supposedly trusted the very brand now resting on a velvet cushion in front of you. That storytelling is a strategic asset because emotional anchoring increases perceived value far more effectively than technical explanation. You are invited to try the watch on, and in that moment, something psychological happens. Ownership begins before payment. Your reflection becomes intertwined with the object, and the brain starts rationalizing why it fits your personality, your achievements, your ambitions. Sellers are trained to mirror your enthusiasm, to validate your taste, to create micro-affirmations that make you feel discerning rather than impulsive. And this subtle reinforcement lowers resistance. They will never openly explain how repetition across advertising, sponsorships, influencer placements, and social media wrist shots has already primed your mind long before you enter the store, building familiarity that feels like personal preference. Nor will they clarify that many components in modern watches are industrially produced with extraordinary precision at scale. Because exclusivity sounds more alluring than efficiency. The illusion is not a lie, but it is incomplete. And that incompleteness is intentional, because once a watch becomes symbolic rather than functional, its justification shifts from practicality to personal mythology. And mythology is infinitely easier to price at a premium than steel, sapphire, and gears. The second thing watch sellers will never tell you is how pricing really works, because the number on the tag is far more about strategy and perception than materials or labor. Retail prices reflect multiple layers of cost that you rarely see. Dealer margins, marketing campaigns, boutique rent in prime locations, ambassador endorsements, import duties, logistics, and even planned flexibility for discounts or future promotions. Limited editions are often minor variations of existing models, yet they are framed as rare and highly valuable to justify higher price points and test how far consumers are willing to stretch. Sellers rarely mention that gray market channels quietly circulate the same references at lower prices, undermining the official narrative of scarcity. Resale value is another carefully curated story. Optimistic examples are highlighted, while the statistical reality is that most watches depreciate once they leave the store. Even when a timepiece is technically impressive, its price is often anchored to brand prestige and emotional appeal, rather than intrinsic worth. In essence, what you are paying for is as much the image, storytelling, and social positioning associated with the watch as the metal, movement, or craftsmanship inside it. And this is a truth that few sellers will ever spell out. The third thing watch sellers will never tell you is how much of your purchase is really about social signaling rather than timekeeping. Watches function as silent status markers, communicating taste, success, and belonging without a word. When a seller mentions that executives, athletes, or celebrities wear a certain model, it's not just trivia. It's a subtle suggestion that owning the same piece elevates your perceived position in a social hierarchy. Limited editions, influencer posts, and carefully timed releases all create urgency and comparison, nudging you to buy not for enjoyment, but to signal achievement or sophistication. What is rarely acknowledged is that this pursuit can become cyclical. Once the first desire is satisfied, another limited piece or special edition quickly appears, keeping you chasing recognition instead of personal satisfaction. In this way, watches can shift from being instruments of time to instruments of social validation, a fact that remains mostly unspoken in the boutique. The fourth thing watch sellers will never tell you is that the technical features of a watch are often emphasized more for prestige than practical benefit. Mechanical movements, chronometer certifications, exotic materials, and complex complications are presented as essential marks of superiority. But in daily life, their advantages are often marginal. For example, a highly decorated tourbillon or a proprietary escapement may look impressive and command higher prices, yet they rarely improve accuracy or durability for the average wearer. Sellers also downplay the ongoing costs of ownership. Mechanical watches require regular servicing, which can be expensive, especially for intricate or limited edition models. Quartz watches, which are often more accurate and low maintenance, are subtly positioned as less desirable because they generate lower margins and less aspirational appeal. In short, the technical story you hear is selective. It highlights features that impress and justify price, while quietly minimizing the realities of practicality, maintenance, and long-term ownership. The fifth thing watch sellers will never tell you is that scarcity is often carefully manufactured rather than being a natural consequence of production. Waiting lists, limited editions, and discontinued models are rarely purely chronological. They are tools designed to create urgency, elevate perceived value, and make the buying experience feel special. Access is often influenced by past purchases, loyalty, or projected future spending. So clients who have previously acquired high-margin or sought-after pieces are frequently prioritized over newcomers, even if the official narrative suggests fairness. Production numbers are usually kept vague, and rumors of cuts, special releases, or discontinuations are timed strategically to stimulate hype, generate conversation in collector communities, and push hesitant buyers toward faster decisions. Even the secondary market is selectively referenced to reinforce the idea of scarcity, highlighting inflated premiums while ignoring the fluctuations and risks that actually exist. The psychological effect is powerful. By the time you finally obtain a coveted watch, months of anticipation, comparison, and imagined exclusivity make the piece feel more precious than it objectively is. Your emotional attachment often outweighs practical considerations like cost, functionality, or even personal preference, which is exactly the point. Scarcity is less about production limits and more about creating desire, controlling perception, and making buyers feel that acquiring the watch is a victory, a reward for patience, loyalty, or status. Sellers rarely explain that this perception of rarity is engineered, because revealing it would diminish the sense of privilege and urgency that drives both sales and brand prestige. The sixth thing watch sellers will never tell you is that the secondary market is far more complex and unpredictable than most buyers realize. While media and marketing often highlight record-breaking auctions or stories of certain models appreciating dramatically, these cases are the exception, not the rule, and they create a misleading perception that all watches are reliable investments. In reality, most pieces lose value once they leave the boutique, and resale depends on multiple factors that are rarely discussed. Condition, provenance, rarity, market trends, economic cycles, and even timing can dramatically influence what a watch will fetch. Selling a watch is rarely instantaneous. Finding the right buyer at the right price can take months, sometimes longer, and transaction fees, shipping costs, authentication charges, and platform commissions all reduce the net return. Counterfeit parts, subtle modifications, or improper servicing can further complicate resale, making documentation, receipts, and careful maintenance crucial for preserving value. Even popular references can fluctuate in price depending on shifting collector sentiment, media hype, or global economic factors, meaning what seems stable in a bull market can soften unexpectedly. Sellers rarely emphasize that watches are not universally liquid assets, and portraying them as investments is often more about marketing than reality. For most owners, the true return lies in enjoyment, personal expression, and the experience of wearing the watch, rather than expecting financial gain. Understanding this can shift your focus from chasing resale value to selecting pieces that genuinely fit your taste, lifestyle, and priorities. The seventh thing watch sellers will never tell you is that lasting satisfaction comes from self-awareness, not prestige, trends, or potential investment. The industry is designed to make you doubt your instincts, constantly comparing your choice to what influencers, forums, and social media suggest is desirable, encouraging upgrades and continual pursuit of the next must-have piece. Yet the watches that truly bring joy are those that reflect your personal style, align with your lifestyle, and suit your values, not the ones with the highest resale potential or the most recognizable brand name. When you choose a watch for yourself rather than for external validation, it becomes meaningful in ways marketing can't manufacture. Wearing it becomes a private pleasure, a companion in daily life, and a reflection of who you are rather than who others want you to be. That intrinsic satisfaction is something no salesperson can sell, explain, or guarantee. But it is the core of why watches endure as objects of desire, beyond their price, complications, or social signal. In the end, what watch sellers will never tell you is that the real value of a watch isn't in its price tag, rarity, or social status. It's in how it fits into your life, reflects your taste, and brings you genuine enjoyment. Understanding the hidden truths behind marketing, scarcity, and prestige doesn't diminish the beauty of a timepiece. It simply lets you choose with clarity, confidence, and a sense of ownership that no salesperson can ever manufacture.